Three, two, one. Welcome to another episode of the Afterthought Sports Podcast. I'm Curtis Cardwell. It's October 18th, 2018. And today we're going to talk about all of the upcoming NFL matchups this week. And we're going to pick each one of them and talk about the lines and the over-unders and straight up and all that good stuff. We already discussed Denver and Arizona yesterday for the game tonight. We'll just quickly touch back on that one real fast. But before we get into it, I want to talk about the NBA a little bit. We had a slew of games last night kicking off the season, and we won't go through all of them, but I do want to just touch on a couple of these games because the NBA is going to be fun this year. And, you know, some of the matchups are already giving us unexpected information. We have Orlando against Miami pulling out a close one at home. Orlando a home dog. And the tail of the tape of that game was, it was really close and back and forth the entire game. But then at a point in the third quarter, a single name just kept getting called out over and over. Mo Bamba. Mo Bamba. Give me Mo Bamba. And he absolutely did. In my opinion, one of the most important points of the game, he caught on fire and really pushed the Orlando to the lead they needed when they needed it, and that allowed them to close it out. Milwaukee, Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek Freak. He's putting it on them all game. This game actually threw up a couple red flags for Milwaukee for me. While Giannis looked dominant as always, Milwaukee was up in this game. They were up in this game the entire first half, almost by 20 or more at points, I think. And it just looked like, wow, you know, Milwaukee's just, they're going to walk away with this no problem. On the other side of the ball, though, you have the Kemba clutch, just raining threes down. I think he put up more than 40 points, and he was basically unstoppable. But the worrying part for me is that 20-point lead I was just talking about, it dissolved by the end of the game. By the end of the game, shooting was good enough to come back to where it was more or less tied at the end, or it was tied at the end. And Milwaukee really had to push and get their stuff together to come back and finish this game. But this shouldn't have been the issue. It shouldn't have been where this game was at because Milwaukee was dominating the whole time, and then to fall apart at the end, just some red flags there. Some of the other interesting games to look at was how did Kawhi do on his opener with Toronto. Toronto was at home against Cleveland, and Toronto looked good. They looked like a top seed in the East. I don't know if they looked more or less dominant with Kawhi. It really kind of looked like the same Toronto team to me. So while I do think that Kawhi is going to be a nice addition for the team, I don't know how much stronger the team actually looked from last year's team, which was a really nice team as well. And on the flip side of that, we have DeMar DeRozan's first appearance for San Antonio against the T-Wolves, who have been having tons of problems in the news. Rumor on that Timberwolves situation is just some down and dirty gossip. Is that somebody said that Jimmy Butler blew out Anthony Towns' wife's back. Said he gave it to her good and she loved it. And that's the real divide that no one's talking about. Is I think Jimmy Butler came in there and gave her a little something that she was missing from the KAT. But again, that's just pure rumors from the rumor mill, but still a fun one at the least. But if whatever's going on in Minnesota, it wasn't enough to come to beat the Spurs, who handled them. Basically, Spurs were in control the whole night, and DeRozan looked like a force. He looked like he's trying to make a statement to Toronto and everyone else that, you know, that he was so easily discarded in that last trade. Because the offensive output under Popovich and in that Spurs system, it was ridiculous. And San Antonio looks strong. They look like they're ready to compete with, you know, a lot of the teams in the West. And speaking about the teams in the West, you know, let's talk about the Rockets for a minute. Rockets were at home. Rockets were at home, looking strong, looking with Melo. They got everyone's healthy. Rockets are supposed to be, in the conversation for the best in the West, right? The Pelicans smashed them at home. Went into Houston, and Anthony Davis the brow got loose with it. They couldn't stop him. He was too big, too strong, and honestly, Houston looked like they weren't ready for the season to start. They looked like they were still goofing around in the offseason, and the offense hasn't gelled yet. It doesn't look smooth. It doesn't look fast, and they got stomped. They got stomped outright. So I think that game will be a little bit of a wake-up call for Houston that, hey, the season has actually started. Lots of other great performances, too, by a lot of the young guys. Doncic and I'm blanking the rookie on Phoenix Center, Ayers. Amazing performances. These are Dallas and Phoenix are two franchises that you really, most of the time, you're not looking to go watch those games. But that's not going to be the case this season. They got some new young guys that are going to be super fun to watch. So it was a great night in the NBA last night, and I'm glad to have the season back. That said, though, we got NFL games tonight. We got NFL games coming up this weekend, and there's a lot of information to go through and talk about. So the idea for today is that I'll talk about only the early games, which is about 8 games. And then tomorrow we'll finish up and go over all the later games because there's just too much info to try and smash through. We could probably get it all in a couple hours, but make it easier and give us a little more room to breathe when we look over all these teams. So just to recap on that Thursday game we talked about yesterday, a couple other things came out where Von Miller has made public statements that, he's coming for Arizona and they're not going to be able to block him. And there's a lot of chatter. And I understand why this has happened because this is kind of a must-win game for Denver. Arizona's season's over. They're 1-5. Even if they win this, they're 2-5. Who cares? Denver, on the other hand, 2-4. 3-4 if they win. They're a win out of 500. The season's not lost. So this is a very important game for Denver. They need to win this tonight and in order to move forward. Putting stuff out to the media is kind of a double-edged sword, though, sometimes. Sometimes it's going to motivate your teammates, motivate yourself potentially, but other times it's going to motivate that other team. They might take that clip and hang it up in the locker room and say, hey, talk to the guys that are going to be facing off directly against Von Miller and Chubb and these other guys and say, these guys are calling you out. These guys are going to call you out, and if you let them become prophets and have their prediction become true on national television, you're the one at fault at the heart of that. And no one wants to be that guy on the poster after Von Miller says, hey, we're going to tear you up, and then he comes in and does exactly that. No one wants to be on the other end of that. So it should be some motivation for the Arizona O-line, but only time will tell on this one. In our picks that we came up with yesterday, one other just a little tidbit about the Broncos. If Garrett Bowles is on the field on the O-line, bad things are going to happen for Denver. So what we came up with at the end of the analyzing the game yesterday was going with 50 on Arizona straight up, 50 on Arizona against the spread, and 50 on the under at 42.5. So this is a bet against the trends. The spread money's on Denver 60-40, and 58% of the money's on the over at 42.5. I just think this is the type of bet that happens on these days. I think my bet is the winner in this situation. We'll see after the end of tonight, but I like Arizona at home, and I like teams that aren't completely garbage to continue to progress, especially when they have young elements in there. And because Arizona hasn't scored at home in the recent history, doesn't mean they won't start in the near term. But it's kind of the irrelevant bowl we're looking at, but it's going to be a fun game regardless, and I'm excited to watch tonight. So our next game is Tennessee and the Los Angeles Chargers. And this is actually a London game. So this is a tough game for these teams because it's a long trip to London. And it's a long flight. You're jet lagged. I don't know which team. There was an issue last week where everyone was talking about how the Seahawks had got in earlier and it gave them more time to adjust to the jet lag. And so Raiders, even though that they're marked a home team, didn't get in until much later, and they had a harder time with the time change and the jet lag and all those things. So it'll be interesting to see how the Titans and the Chargers choose to travel, who gets in first, who's more rested, who's more ready for this game. There's no real home team on this either. Obviously playing in London, no one's going to be in their comfort zone, and I'm not really sure if any London fans care one way or not about the Chargers or the Titans. Okay, so let's look at some of just the initial trends on this game. Well, I guess let's start with it's the LA Chargers who are considered the home team on this one versus the Tennessee Titans. The Chargers are favored by 6.5, and the over/under is 45. So 45, 6.5. We're looking at the Chargers winning by a touchdown and medium scoring game. Looking for the over against the spread here. It looks like the best money line available is plus 245 Tennessee. So we're plus 245 Tennessee, minus 278 the Rams. Oh, there's other money lines where they have I called them the Rams, the Chargers. They have the Chargers minus 300 on some sites. So the most extreme money line you're going to be able to find is about plus 245 minus 300, and that's the highest since the opened. It opened at 209 plus 209 for the Titans and minus 250 for the Chargers. So Chargers are heavily favored in this one. That's what we're seeing through these lines, is that everyone's expecting the Chargers to win, which you should, because anyone that watched Tennessee's game last week, wow. They were exposed up and down and throughout. There wasn't an element of their team that wasn't put on blast by Baltimore. So Tennessee's reeling after a beatdown, and that's kind of what they're looking like. Tennessee's reeling after a beatdown. They're going to have to travel and fly across an ocean and play in a strange place this week after getting just the crap kicked out of them last week. So some of the head-to-head stats and trends on this, let's check out. Let's look at the last 10 games. Tennessee's 1-9 in their last 10. The Chargers are 9-1. Tennessee's 0-9-1 against the spread. The Chargers are 9-0-1 against the spread. Rushing yards. Tennessee rushing about 100 a game. Chargers are putting up 157. Tennessee actually passes the ball, tries to pass the ball more than the Chargers, which is a little strange. I wouldn't have thought that if you said, "Hey, do you think that the Titans try and pass more than the Chargers do?" I would have never have guessed that in a million years. But on those pass attempts, we look at Rivers completing almost 70% of his passes versus the 55.11 from Tennessee, and whoever that is, in taking into account Mariota and the rest. And then the other big number that sticks out is Tennessee's total yards a game, about 300, and the Chargers' total yards a game, about 400. And they're almost averaging almost a full factor turnover higher. Also, 4 of Tennessee's last 5 games have gone under. Tennessee is 0-4-1 against the spread in its last 5 when playing the Chargers. Tennessee is 1-10 straight up in the last 11 games when playing the Chargers. So, let's go over this last. So the total has gone over in 4 of Tennessee's last 5 games when playing the Chargers. All right, so let's look at these indicators a little bit more and talk about what they're actually saying. So the total has gone under in 4 of Tennessee's last 5 games. So whatever the spread is putting in there, they're not hitting it. Whatever spread's being given to them, they're not hitting it. They're 0-4-1. Oh, sorry, that was talking about the total's gone under. So the Tennessee's not putting up points. And then also they're 0-4-1 against the spread, so they're not hitting that number either. Kind of muddled those two together there, but it's bad for the Chargers both ways. Not only are they not hitting points, but they're not hitting the spread either. And they're 1-10 straight up in the last 11 when playing the Chargers. So either Tennessee's due to finally beat the Chargers, or it's just going to be another whipping. Weather's going to be nice there, 63 degrees, should be nice and crisp. So that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Also coming into the game, quite a few guys that are injured. Delaney Walker's on the injured reserve for Tennessee. Wesley Woodyard's questionable. Derek Morgan, the other linebacker for Tennessee, was injured last week against. He's questionable as well. Will Compton also questionable. Benny Logan questionable. Kenny Vaccaro's out. He's out 2 to 4 weeks. Their safety. And then they have a few other guys on the IR that have been on the IR. So the Titans' D is banged up. They don't have linebackers. They need linebackers. They need secondary. It's not looking good. On the Chargers side of the ball, Chargers are down Joe Barksdale, their tackle. He's actually been upgraded to probable for Sunday. And Travis Benjamin, the wide receiver, he's questionable. Caleb Sturgis, their kicker, is questionable still. And then Joey Bosa out indefinitely still. That's the biggest part for the Chargers defense, is not having Joey Bosa in there. He was the excitement maker on the Chargers defense. So it's tough for them to have him out. There's not too many weapons on the defensive side of the Chargers football team, and not having a guy like Joey Bosa in is a huge detriment to your defense. And looking at the other stats, like if we're just going to throw the teams one next to another, the Chargers are dominating Tennessee in every statistical category that you can think of. You know, total score, passing yards, rushing yards, time on the field, number of plays, yards per play. It's not looking good for Tennessee numbers-wise in any of these matchups. And that said, I don't know how much more there is how much more information we really need on this matchup to try and make a decision about it, because it kind of is what it is. I mean, is there any factor that we're not thinking about that'll allow Tennessee to hang in there? Is there anything that can happen? I mean, there's plenty of things that can happen to throw the game off, but reasonably, there should be no way that Tennessee hangs with this game. Phillip Rivers should go down and just have his way with the Tennessee defense. And, I'm picturing 45-10 or 45-6 or something. I think this is just going to be a stomping, and especially after the demoralizing beatdown last week. I don't know what could have been said or have happened since that that would have reinvigorated the Titans team in any way, really. There's no. I mean, what do you say? What do you say to a team after a beatdown like that? So I don't. The only problem with this game for me is the straight up bet. Taking the Chargers straight up, depending on where you get your money line. Let's just look at the Bovada money line because that's one of the more popular betting sites. So Bovada's line is plus 240, plus 280 and minus plus 280 and minus 7 for or plus plus 240 plus 7 for the Titans, minus 280 minus 7 for the Chargers. So 280, they are a heavy favorite. 280 is kind of I kind of like balk at these heavy straight up line numbers where I don't necessarily like to put 100 down to try and only win, and then potentially I'm paying out 280 if that bet goes the wrong way. So I'm not big on that. So I would say what I'd be doing on this one, and also I'm giving you bets on every single at least the three main ways that you can bet every game. Straight up against the spread and the over and under. So we'll make bets on each of those things for every game, regardless of how much I like it or not. And because the hope is, the real hope is with this is that by kind of walking through this information about the matchups together, and because I could easily do this study up on this beforehand and come in with a much more concise, to the point rundown of every game for you guys. But I feel like when you get information like that, a lot of time it doesn't register properly. And for me at least, I find I learn much better when I go through the information with somebody and we look at it all and talk about it, and you guys get a chance to see where my thinking is at, looking at these numbers and stats, and maybe find faults in what I'm doing that helps you make a better decision, or find good things within my thinking that helps you make a better decision. So that's the ultimate goal. So because I don't like the huge straight up money line, I'd be putting 50 on San Diego. They're LA Chargers. Not for long. I don't know what's going to happen with that. Like I can't imagine that they're going to be in LA for much longer. I just don't see it. And let's take that Bovada money line. That's minus 280. So we got 50 on the Chargers, straight up, at minus 280. And then we're going to put 100 on the Chargers against the spread. And 45 is there, and I think this is over. I think 45, I think we're going to be over 45. Just because I do believe Tennessee might score in some kind of strange way, or during junk time maybe or something. But I easily see the Chargers putting up at least 35 points in this. At least 35 points in this. So just to recap on that, we have Tennessee versus the LA Chargers, which are the quote home team, because this is the London game. And we have the over-under is 45, and the spread is +7, the LA Chargers. And then straight up is minus 280 or plus 240 if you really want to take the Titans for whatever reason. And I'm writing some of these down too, so we can keep track of some of these bets and know exactly where we're at from here on out as these games start coming in. So the next game we're coming into is Buffalo versus Indy. There's actually, this week is interesting to me because there's so many teams that are similar playing this week. I mean, or if they are deficient on offense or defense, it's like a deficient defensive team playing a deficient offensive team, which is kind of like this game. But a lot of interesting matchups. Excited for this week. So Buffalo versus Indy. Indy's favored at home by 7.5. And the over-under is 43.5. So they're predicting this to be another kind of medium scoring game. The Bovada money line is minus 320 Colts, plus 260. So wow, it's really believed at this point that, by money line at least, by whoever's setting these money lines, that the Colts are just gonna roll. But looking at this game, I don't know if it's a foregone conclusion. We have 58% of the money already on Buffalo with the plus 7.5. And in the over-under, the money's about to split 50-50. Let's look at some of the trends here. So Buffalo is 2-5 straight up in the last 7. 2-5 straight up. Ugh. The total has gone under in 4 of Buffalo's last 5 games. 4 of their last 5, it's gone under. And that's because Buffalo's defense is top tier D. Buffalo's 1-4 straight up in the last 5 games on the road. Not winning on the road. They're only winning 1-4 on the road right now. The total has gone under in 5 of Buffalo's last 6 games on the road. So, and again to their defense, I'm a huge fan of Buffalo's defense. Buffalo is 4-1 against the spread in its last 5 games when playing Indy. So they play up against Indy and they've been beating the spread. Buffalo's 3-7 straight up in the last 10 when playing Indy. So they're not beating them, but they're covering the spread. The total has gone under in 6 of Buffalo's last 7 when playing Indianapolis. So it's low-scoring games where Buffalo's covering the spread but losing is what these stats are telling us. Buffalo is 1-4 against the spread in the last 5 when playing on the road against Indianapolis. So on the road against Indy, they're not covering, but they're covering at home. Buffalo is 0-5 straight up in the last 5 games when playing on the road against Indy. They haven't beat Indy at home in the last 5 times they've matched up. The total has gone under in 7 of Buffalo's last 10 when playing on the road against Indy. And we have similar stats coming out of Indy here, but I don't know how much more information this is going to give us decision-making wise. 2-4, the Indy 2-4 against the spread in its last 6, 2-11 straight up in the last 13. It's a couple of losers. So this is where some of this data can kind of mess with your thinking a little bit. You know, you got 2 under-average teams and subpar kind of, and they're both going to throw all these stats where, you know, neither one is really performing at home or on the road or straight up. So it's kind of information that doesn't necessarily correlate when you're looking at sometimes when you're looking at these trends where, yes, this, and this is happening, but it doesn't help us when we're trying to think, you know, does any of this information help us specifically know how bad Indy's going to beat Buffalo or vice versa? The trends that do stick out, though, is Indy's 5-0 straight up in the last 5 games at home against Buffalo. And you're seeing a lot of under trends and a lot of Indy. And maybe that is what's accounting for this huge favorite line on the money line. I mean, minus 320, that's more than the Chargers were favored over Tennessee. And I feel like Tennessee's a way worse team than Buffalo. But that's where that is. So, injuries on Buffalo. Derek Anderson is the starter versus Indianapolis. So, this is the biggest deal, I think, for this game. And this contributes also to that huge money line where Josh Allen hurt his elbow last week and he's not going to be playing. So, we got the old man, the Derek Anderson, I honestly didn't even know he was playing still. I didn't even have an idea. The guy's got to be 50 years old. Good on you, Derek Anderson, that you've been hanging in there and you're going to get a chance to start again. But I don't know if that's the best case scenario for Buffalo. Obviously not. They have a questionable guard, Vladimir Dukas. Tywan Jones is questionable. Trent Murphy's questionable, the defensive end. And really, Josh Allen is marked out indefinitely. So I wonder what really did happen with that elbow, whether it's a shattered, like, did he shatter that elbow? Which he might have. It might be just shattered in there and a bone sticking all over everything. Which could be, that'd be really bad for Buffalo because I was enjoying watching Josh Allen play. Injuries on Indy's side. Indy's injured, as always. Matt Slauson, their center, is on the IR. Robert Turbin is questionable. He's a running back. T.Y. Hilton, probable. T.Y. still nursing that bad hamstring, so nice to see T.Y. back. Marcus Hunt, D tackle, questionable. Jack Doyle, tight end, questionable. Ryan Grant, wide receiver, questionable. Denuncio Autry, questionable. Clayton Geathers, questionable. Denzel Good, questionable. So, Indy's banged up. Indy's banged up is what we're seeing here. Of all those names I just read, we have a center, a running back, a wide receiver, a D tackle, a tight end, a wide receiver, and a D end. All questionable. All these guys are banged up. So, I hope they're all feeling better and I hope they all make the game. But Indy's got some injury woes to work on. The weather's going to be 45 degrees. It's going to be nice and chilly, but playing in the dome, so shouldn't matter. So, looking at the team, let's just take a look at, now that we got all these numbers in us, let's just think about these two teams for a second. We have Buffalo, one of the best defenses in the NFL, and now without Josh Allen, we have Derek Anderson in there. In thinking about it, I think there's every possibility that we see a Osweiler-ish performance out of Derek Anderson, maybe. Some of these old backup guys come in and they got just enough energy in them to, perform for a couple nice games. But I don't know that that's going to be the case for Buffalo. I don't know how ready and prepared Derek Anderson is ready to go to be a starter in the NFL again. But I don't necessarily think that Josh Allen coming out of the offense is absolutely crippling to what their offense is trying to do. I mean, you're going to see Shady get a lot of touches. Buffalo's going to run the football. That's all they can do in this situation is they can come out and they can try and run the ball and control the clock and keep it out of Andrew Luck's hands. And rely on their defense, which is the best part of their team, to try and push them through. And as far as I see it, that's the only game plan that Buffalo has in this game. They're on the road. It's not looking good for them. Indy, on the other hand, is still trying to find their way back. They haven't been right. They haven't been right since Luck got hurt and went out. And since he's been back, it seems like they're still trying to reorganize themselves around Luck and what the team is supposed to be like. And I'm a huge Andrew Luck fan, by the way. I think Andrew Luck being in the game, regardless, gives you a chance to win. I put him right there with Aaron Rodgers, where if you don't have anything going on in offense, if you don't have anything going on, who are you going to put in there in quarterback to get something done? I'm taking Andrew Luck. I'm taking Aaron Rodgers as my first two picks of guys that you don't need to surround with anyone. You don't need to surround them with anyone, and they still look like a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. So I expect Indy to be getting better and better as every game that happens. They're 1-5. It's not a great year for Indy. They're probably looking at a high draft pick, but I do expect things to get better and better for them slowly as the season goes on and the team begins to play with Andrew Luck again. And Indy is Indy's thin everywhere. And that's why this is an interesting game, too, is because Indy is thin everywhere. So if Andrew Luck comes out and he gets on it and he goes and scores early, I think Indy rolls. Indy rolls, I think, if the Colts score first. But if they come out and they struggle, Buffalo's D puts it on them. Because while Buffalo's defense isn't amazing against the run, what they are amazing against is the pass. And Indy's best receiver is questionable. Questionable. Luck's found some other targets that he's like to throw to this year, but Ty is the guy that can go score touchdowns for the Colts. So if Buffalo can wrangle Luck in, it could be a long day for him. And I'm not necessarily sold that Derek Anderson, at the level with Josh Allen's understanding of the game right now. I don't know how much of a downgrade it is to swap in a tried and true vet. That tried and true vet is going to be equal to Josh Allen's play, just with his old tricks. That old dog, Derek Anderson's definitely got some tricks to have stayed in the league this long. And I think the play will be almost comparable out of quarterback position, which makes this a difficult pick because the line is so skewed. And my initial thought is, Indy wins this. Indy's going to win this. Buffalo's been going through, some problems here, and now they lost their kid, and yada, yada, yada. But line-wise, Vegas-wise, my spidey sense is tingling. My spidey sense is tingling on this, just because we can take Buffalo plus 260. I kind of like Buffalo plus 260. That's a nice number. And then the spread is huge. You have Buffalo plus 7.5. Plus 7.5, more than a touchdown. And the over-under is 43.5. So it depends. It really depends on where do we see this going, and I can only see it going one of two ways. Where it's like I was talking about, Derek Anderson doesn't look that bad. They run the ball a ton to Shady, and the Bills secondary shuts down Luck enough to keep the Bills in it all day. That's the under Bills cover scenario. The other scenario is Andrew Luck scores first. The Bills look wishy-washy without their leadership in there, and Indy rolls at home. It's very interesting. So I can't lay off. All right, here's where I'm at with this. I can't lay off these big fat numbers. And the more I talk about Buffalo and their defense, and if they were playing a better caliber team, I feel like I would be rethinking entirely everything that I'm thinking right now. But what I'm seeing is it's the entire Buffalo team versus Andrew Luck. And for me, that still gives the Colts a good chance to win. But there's just not enough on it. Indy's a bad team. They're 1-5. They're not winning right now. And Buffalo, it's the same kind of scenario with Denver, where Buffalo's kind of in that must-win situation where a loss and they're 2-5 and the season's over. A win and you're 3-4 and you're still right in it. You're still right in it. You're only a game out of 500. So I think Buffalo's going to be coming into this game more if they're doing their job, if the leaders in their locker room are doing their job right and the coaches are doing their job right, Buffalo's going to come into this game pumped bananas. So here's what we're going to do. I'm taking Buffalo straight up for 50 at plus 260. You know what? I'm going to take this game. I'm taking Buffalo straight up plus 260 for 100. And then I also like Buffalo to cover the spread at 7.5. I like. We'll put 50 on that one, and then the over/under is 43.5. And if we're thinking the Bills are going to cover and win, we got to say that the game's going to be low scoring. So let's go 50 on the under as well. All right, and that wraps that guy up. So our next game is Carolina versus Philly. Now we're moving into the meat of it, getting some more interesting games here. So Carolina and Philly. Let's look at the line right away. So Philly at home. Philly's minus 4.5. Over under 45. So they're thinking there's going to be some puntos scored in this one. The money line is minus 230 for Philly and plus 190 for Carolina. Got a couple championship caliber teams here. Teams that know how to play some football. Let's look at their trends. So Carolina is 10-5 straight up in the last 15. The total has gone over in 9 of Carolina's last 13. Carolina's 1-4 against the spread in its last 5 on the road. Carolina's 0-5 straight up in its last 5 games on the road. Total has gone over in 4 of Carolina's last 6 games on the road. So what is this telling us so far? It says that Carolina's scoring points. They're scoring points and hanging in there on the road, but they're not winning on the road. And they're not covering, and they're not winning. Which is interesting that they're scoring tons of points, but they're not covering still. But the games are going over. Carolina's 2-5 against the spread in its last 7 games when playing Philly. Carolina's 2-5 straight up in its last 7s when playing Philly. So 2-5, that is what it is. Going to try and play Philly. The total has gone over in 5 of Carolina's last 6 games when playing Philly. So they put up points against each other. Carolina's 2-4 against the spread in its last 6 when playing on the road against Philly. 2-4 straight up in its last 6 when playing on the road against Philly. So interesting. And the last 6 games is a decent mark to look at. But we are looking at championship level teams against Philly in those last 6 games when we're doing this comparison. So a lot of these numbers are coming out of some of the best years that Philly's had in a while. And Philly is 1-4 against the spread in its last 5. 18-5 straight up in its last 23. Philly is 8-4 against the spread in its last 12 at home. And 13-12 straight up in its last 15 at home. Philly wins at home. Total has gone under in 7 of Philly's last 8 games at home. Philly is a 5-2 against the spread in its last 7 when playing Carolina. And these are the numbers we already saw the reverse of. It's just we're going to see, instead of 2-4, we're going to see 4-2 through all these, where against the spread, straight up, Philly's beat Carolina. So we're seeing, so these trends, in my mind, they don't really give us any information, honestly. What we see is Philly wins, and we know this, and they win at a higher percentage. We know this, and that when the last times they played Carolina at home, they've been winners, and that's info we already know. So these trends don't help us very much. Let's look at the injuries. Matt Khalil on Carolina out, injured reserve. That big tackle, that's tough. Bunch of guys on IR. Let's see. Demir Bird is probable. There is a questionable. He's out with an ankle injury. He's a wide receiver for Carolina. Jared Norris, linebacker, is questionable for Philly. Marquise Haynes, D-end, is questionable. And Andre Smith, linebacker, is also questionable. So not too banged up on Carolina. Philly, Jason Peters, probable. Ooh, he's got that bicep problem that he had to go out last week for. So that's a big deal for Philly. Jason Peters is a cornerstone of their whole O-line. So him being a little banged up isn't the greatest. Sproles, questionable. Could we see the Sproles? Oh, man. What a great career Sproles has had. And I remember watching him back at Kansas State. Amazing. Hololi Nagata, questionable. Corey Graham, safety, questionable. Lane Johnson, tackle, questionable. Sidney Jones, cornerback, questionable. Nathan Gary, linebacker, questionable. So, Philly looks banged up, not necessarily injured, but they do look very banged up, and they got a lot of guys, a lot of big names maybe coming back, so it could be invigorating if they do get some of these guys back. So overall, Carolina scores more points. Philly scores more, has more passing yards. Carolina rushes the ball better. Philly controls the clock better, runs more plays, but Carolina has more yards per play, just barely though. And this is I think that and this is again, I love this matchup because to me, these teams are very close. They almost look like the same team in a lot of ways to me. I do think the Eagles have the edge on offense. They have better coaches and better plays offensively, but straight talent for talent and athletically, I love the way these two teams match up. And that makes some of these numbers tough to decipher because 4.5 is an interesting number. This is a number I hate. It's like having, 16 or 15 in blackjack. 4.5, it's more than a field goal, but not a touchdown. So Philly's going to play well at home. They're healthy for the most part. They might be getting some bigger names back. They're coming off a win last week. And the Panthers, what did the Panthers do last week? I don't even remember. Let's look at Panthers. Wish I could find on here an easier way to break both these teams out. Well, in their last 10, let's look at their last 3. So Carolina's 1-2 in their last 3, and Philadelphia's 2-1. And I kind of like this 3-game spread to look at because, to me, it's kind of a indicator of momentum. What are they doing over the last 3 games? They're winning. What is Carolina doing over the last 3? They're losing. But also looking over these last yards, Carolina's offensive game gave them more and more every game. They're building momentum on offense. So will Philly win by more than a field goal? That's where we're at with this. Where I think Philly wins at home, but I don't know if it's by more than a field goal. We have Cam coming in. Cam's always gonna play up. Funchess is healthy in there. McCaffrey's healthy. They're coming. It's gonna be a good game. It's gonna be a great game. And that said, I think the first thing I like betting wise is the over, which is 45. But I see these teams putting up points. I think both coaching staffs have interesting enough offenses and interesting enough plays to keep each other on their toes, where it's going to be a lot. They're going to put up points. I don't see Philly's defense, which has been a little bit underwhelming so far this year. coming in and just shutting Carolina completely down. Even though that they are at home, I don't know that they have the defensive capability to shut Carolina down. I think Carolina scores at least twice, and the Eagles score at least twice. And then where are we at there? We're at 28 there, so we still need to account for 17 more points. So will there be 3 more scores after that? And I think there will be. So I like the over. As far as money line wise, let's look at it straight up. Straight up, you have the Eagles minus 230. I like the Eagles to win straight up. Philly straight up at home, even though it's minus 230. I like that. I like it even for 100. Philly at home minus 230, straight up for 100. I like it 50 for over, but now this tricky little spread, 4.5. Is Carolina going to cover that? Is it going to be a field goal win? And my feeling is it almost could be. I think points are scored, but I don't see Eagles really running away from them with it. So I like 50 on Carolina to cover, plus 4.5. So just to recap again, Carolina versus Philly. Philly at home. I like 100 on Philly straight up, minus 230. 50 on Carolina to cover, plus 4.5. And 50 on the over, which is 45. That's the first over game we've taken too. Denver AZ got the under. Tennessee LA Chargers got the under at 45. And Buffalo Indy got the under at 43.5. And that's all for this game. So let's move on to Cleveland and Tampa Bay. Another very interesting matchup. And Cleveland's going all the way down to Florida. So for me, this is a kink in most teams' wheels, where anytime you got to go from wherever you are to Florida, it's going to knock you off your game. Something's going to happen where it's not going to be things aren't going to run the status quo and how they normally run. So initially looking at this game, Tampa Bay's at home, and they're favored at home. They're minus 3.5, and the over/under's 50.5. Wow. 62% of the money's on Tampa Bay, and 63% of the money's on the over. So people have lost faith in these Browns. They've lost faith in the Browns. Which is too bad. That's just too bad. So let's look at the money line. It's minus 190 for the Bucks, plus 165 for the Browns. So even with the high over and under, I guess, throws you off when you initially see this game. 50.5 is a little shocking when you look at it. You say, whoa. Then looking at the money line, it's only minus 190, 165. It's going to be a close, high-scoring game is what everyone thinks. Maybe not, though. Maybe not. It might not score all those points. Let's look at some of these trends. Cleveland is 5-2 against the spread in its last 7. They've been covering. 7-14 against the spread in its last 21. Well, really can't cover the last 21 games. It's a little unfair to the Browns. So 2-20-1 straight up in the last 23. And that's what I mean. Some of these trends are a little disingenuous. Cleveland, we know, didn't win last year. So by putting up a 23-game trend is not very telling about what's going on in Cleveland right now. Like, I don't even really a team that was as bad as Cleveland and who is now trying to climb out of that, it's different day by day, I'm sure, in there. Cleveland is 0-5 straight up in its last 5 on the road. That's a trend that's telling. 0-5 on the road. Total has gone over in 12 of Cleveland's last 17 on the road. So they're putting up points on the road. Tampa Bay is 8-14-1 against the spread in its last 23. 3-8 straight up in the last 11. The total has gone over in 5 of Tampa's last 5. They've been over every time. They're putting up puntos. Tampa Bay is 4-2 against the spread in the last 6 at home. And the total has gone under in 9 of Tampa Bay's last 13 at home. So that really sticks out to me. The total has gone under in 9 of Tampa Bay's last 13 games at home. That's interesting. And I don't know if that's because they're D or straight up head-to-head, it's a slaughter. Stat-wise, Tampa Bay's got everything. Cleveland's got nothing. Injury-wise, Cleveland's got Rod Streeter on IR. Anybody coming back? E.J. Gaines is questionable, the cornerback. J.C. Treader, center, questionable. Rashard Higgins, wide receiver, is out 2 to 4 weeks with a knee injury. Joe Schobert, he's questionable. Joe Schobert, the linebacker. Baker Mayfield, probable against Tampa. He had a little ankle problem from last week, but he'll be all right. He's going to split that. He'll play. Damian Ratley, wide receiver, is questionable. So Cleveland is doing all right injury-wise, and Tampa Bay, stunningly injury-free, minus Gerald McCoy. He was injured last game, and he's questionable coming back. He had a calf injury last game. But I imagine that big boy McCoy, he'll be back. Vinny Curry, D-end, he's questionable also. But other than that, Tampa Bay looks healthy. They look healthy. They're the healthiest team I've seen so far. Okay, so examining the teams, what we've seen. Cleveland's defense, top tier, top 5 NFL defense. Sometimes I don't think we get an accurate look at some of these defense. When, if you just want to bring up the stat sheet, you'll see Tennessee has good defensive numbers. That's because everyone just goes and scores right away, and there's not a lot of time the other offense is hanging around on the field and putting up a bunch of numbers. So sometimes top-tier defenses don't get the right recognition stat-wise because of what's going on with the offense. A lot of these defenses end up having to be on the field way longer than they should have to, and be interesting to see with what they could do with a decent offense that can move the ball and give them proper breaks and all those things. But the Browns' defense has it. It's definitely there. Baker's settling in. He's looking better and better every single game. And this is a huge game for both teams, too, because both 2-3. Both 2-3. Whoever wins this game is 500. And that's season-saving mentally. Season-saving mentally. 2-4 versus 3-3 are two completely different animals when you think about it in your head. Momentum, energy in the locker room, in the clubhouse, energy when you come into work is better at 3-3 than it is at 2-4. And everybody in the management of both these teams knows just that. And so both teams are going to come out prepped for this, and I think this is going to be a hard-hitting game. There's going to be a lot of fireworks going on here. Overall, stat-wise against each other, Tampa Bay scores more points. They pass the ball for more yards. But Cleveland runs the ball better. They control the clock better, and they run more plays. Average yards per play, though, 5 for Cleveland, 7 for Tampa Bay. And that's really it. You got famous Jameis in there. Jameis can wing that ball, man. Throw it wherever you want it. Another thing to note, this is going to be a hot game. Well, 81 degrees, but in Florida, that humidity is going to be thick, and it'll have some heat going on, which the Buccaneers are going to be totally ready for and acclimated to, and Cleveland won't. They're going to be coming on that field sweating. So who's going to win, though? Who's going to win this at home? I think just because of all the overhype, and it's going to go over and it's going to go over, I don't think Cleveland's defense is so bad that the Bucs will be able to come down and score at will on them. I think they're going to have more problems than they think handling Garrett and a lot of these other studs on this Browns D-line, where it's not going to be a walk in the park, and I hope Tampa Bay doesn't think it's going to be, because it 100% won't be. So 50.5 for the over-under. 50.5. I do like it going over. Initial thought, looking at it, 50.5. That's, I could see this game 30 plus points scored by each team, easy. 3.5 Tampa Bay. Why I'm kind of waffling here a little bit is I'm not 100% convinced looking at this that it's a Tampa Bay win. I mean, 62% of the money's on Tampa Bay to win and 63% on the over. It kind of looks like a game Vegas makes money on, we have, and plus because it's 3.5. What if Tampa Bay only beats them by a field goal, which I could totally see be coming down to, a field goal at the end. And the under 50.5. Now, just staring at it and seeing that 63% of the money's on the over just makes me think there's going to be 49 points scored. Looking at it, 50.5 and 63% of the money on the over makes me think that the combined total is going to be 49 points. Okay, so let's start. This one's actually a tough one for me. Let's look at it straight up. Do we like Tampa Bay minus 190 or Cleveland plus 165? Straight up, I like Tampa for $50. Tampa for $50, and that's minus 190. So we're not gonna, if we're wrong on this, we're not gonna take a big hit 190. The ones we don't want to lose is our minus 230s and minus 280s. But we can throw 50 at minus 190 and be happy with that. Now against the spread, this is different for me. I don't know that Tampa Bay wins by a touchdown. I don't see that. I don't visualize that when I think about the whole game. I see this as a close game, and I see Baker Mayfield keeping them close in this game. So I'm going to actually take Cleveland for 50 against the spread plus 3.5. And that said, I think I want to change my underbet. I think I want to change my underbet from the over-under, from over to under. Let's go 50 on the under as well. Oh, I'm waffling. I apologize, but this is where my head's at with this. Like, we've been seeing so many points week on week on week on week on week. And is the trend going to continue to go that way? Yes. But not in every game. But just looking back at my list here, we're under, over. And if I take the under on this one, we're under again. And I don't think this is a bad way to go, because what I think has been happening with so many overs is that Vegas is having some problems pinning that over and under on the new NFL. There's so many more points, so many different teams now, that it's got to be tougher to nail that over-under number real nice. So let's go with it. I'm going to go with the under anyways. So we have 3 out of 4 games picked under, which this could be folly, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm happy with it as of right now. And that said, well, one more time on this game before we move on. So we have Cleveland versus Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay at home. And what we decided to do was 50 on Tampa Bay straight up for 190, 50 on Cleveland to cover plus 3.5, and 50 on the under at 50.5. So I think that's fair enough for that game. I don't have, barring new information, I don't have anything else that would sway me, I don't think, one way or another right now. So I'm pretty happy with that, I guess. Next is Detroit versus Miami. So we have another Midwest team traveling down to Florida. Miami is 4-2, and the Lions are 2-3 coming in. Miami's favored plus. Oh, Miami's a home dog against Detroit. And they're a home dog because of Osweiler. Osweiler's getting the start again, and I'm sure everyone thinks Patricia's just going to have his number. The over is 46.5, and so far 52% of the money's on Miami, and 55% of the money's on the over at that 46.5 number. Looking at some of the trends, Detroit is 5-1 against the spread in its last 6. The total has gone over in 5 of Detroit's last 6 games. Detroit is 1-4 straight up in the last 5 on the road. Total has gone over in 6 of Detroit's last 8 games on the road. Detroit 2-5 straight up in the last 7s when playing Miami. Miami 2-4 against the spread in the last 6. 4-2 straight up in the last 6. 5-1 against the spread in the last 6 at home. 5-1 straight up in the last 6 at home. Total's gone over in 7 of Miami's last games at home. Miami 5-2 straight up in its last 7 when playing Detroit. And it's going to be 87 degrees down in Miami, so it is going to be hot and humid. 87 in Miami feels like a million degrees. It's just so heavy and humid down there. 56% humidity. Yuck. And that will be a smack in the face to the Lions. And that's why through these trends you see Miami having such good games. 5-2 straight up, playing Detroit at home, and some of these other stats where it's because when you travel from wherever crappy place you are in the Midwest and you roll into Miami, it's not only a culture shock, but it's also an environment shock where the weather is so different than what you're used to. I think physiological things actually happen in your biology when you travel from one area. If you're going from almost the Arctic to a beach in less than a day, your body's going to have a hard time acclimating right away. So who's injured? Detroit, TJ Lang's guard. He's questionable. Tavon Wilson, safety, questionable. Theo Riddick, running back, questionable. Ezekiel Ansah, D-end, questionable. Eli Harold, linebacker, upgraded to probable. Michael Roberts, tight end, questionable. Kerryon Johnson, probable. So Detroit's banged up. They're nicked, banged, and bruised. But nothing looks too worrisome looking at that. Miami has a much longer laundry list of injured players. William Haynes, D-end, out for the season with the knee. Cameron Wake, questionable with his knee injury. Cameron Wake is a big addition to Miami. Tannehill, he's out. Just as downgraded to out. We don't know when he's going to be back. Osweiler starting. Bobby McCain, cornerback, is questionable. A.J. DeRoy, tight end, questionable. Jonathan Woodard, questionable, D-end. Charles Harris, D-end, questionable. So defense is banged up on Miami. D is banged up on Miami. That's what we see there. Straight up, overall, the Lions score more points. The Lions pass for more yards. Miami rushes for more yards. Detroit controls the ball better. They run more plays. and they both average about the same amount of yards per play. The money line is plus 140 for Miami at home, minus 160 Detroit. My initial thought looking at this, as soon as we hit it and I saw the numbers, Miami's just been screaming at me the whole time. I like Miami at home on this. And Osweiler's Osweiler, but he's stoked. He's pumped. The guy has good energy. He's loving it that he's going to get another start this week. And they won last week with him, so he's going to be prepped, ready to go. It'll probably be ugly as hell. He'll probably come out and do a bunch of stuff where you go, yep, that's Osweiler. But I don't know that that's going to be the deciding factor against the Lions. There's a lot of other things going on, and Osweiler, he can see if he hits old Albert again. If he has another week, if Albert receiving has another week like he did last week, he's a star. He's a star. He took balls to the house where it looked like he looked like a star. He looked like he should have been a household name already. And if it happens again this week, he will be a star, 100%. Calling it. But let's break down how we think we want to bet on this thing. Miami at home. Detroit, like I was saying, they're going to get culture and environment shock when they go down to Miami. It's terrible in Detroit right now. So I like Miami plus money at home. I mean, straight up, I like Miami for 50 plus one. What do we get? Plus 160? No, plus 140. And it's funny, Miami opened, by the way, a minus 189 favorite. Now they're plus 140. The Osweiler factor. Over under 46.5. I think it's over. I think both these teams, they're going to let it fly. Matthew Stafford, he's going to go out and do their thing. So are the Dolphins. I mean, the Dolphins have had good momentum. I wanted to count them out of a bunch of games earlier in the year, and lo and behold, 4-2. So I can't continue to just say, hey, Miami's no good. They're 4-2. They're 4-2, and it's not all because of Tannehill, and it's a team effort. It really is. It really is a team effort, and they're playing well. So the plus, Miami plus 3 at home. I like Miami straight up, and I like them against the spread too. I think Miami has every opportunity to win by a touchdown. We're not going to go big on it. We're just going to go another 50. Go 50 against the spread, plus 3. So to recap this one, I like Miami straight up, plus 140, home dog. And then, and it's also an early game too. So this is what else I like about Midwest teams having to fly down to Miami and participate in a morning game. Good luck. It's gonna be tough. You're not gonna feel right. And then Miami against the spread plus 3 and 50 on the over, which is 46.5. I think both teams are going to find holes in each other's defenses, and I think points are going to be put up. Next game, Houston-Jacksonville. More teams coming to Florida. It's a big it's home games in Florida. Florida's going to be partying this weekend. Everybody tailgating. There's games everywhere. Everyone has to go to Florida and win in Florida. Not so easy to do. Ask anybody else that's tried to come into Florida in any sport and beat them in Florida. It's not easy to win in Florida. Okay, so initially, Texas at Jacksonville. Jacksonville are -5. And the over-under is 42. Money line says -230 Jacksonville, +190 Houston. Oh, and this one already gives me a little bit of indigestion because I don't know what to think about the Jags. I don't know how good they are. I know how much talent's on the team. I know how athletic they are. I know what their potential is. But do I know where they're at right now? I have no idea. Blake Bortles shouldn't be a quarterback. Total garbage. And there's a bunch of other stuff going on too, where there is a lack of. This is my assumption too, by the way. With the amount of talent in there and the way I see them playing, it's poor coaching. It's poor leadership from management. It's poor structure within the organization. Like, I hate to even put this out in the universe. Imagine if, Bill Belichick had Jacksonville's D. Oh, God. It would never lose. But Bill Belichick does not have Jacksonville's D. And who does have Jacksonville's D might not be there for long. This is a big game for Jacksonville because they knew coming into the season they're the favorite. They're the favorite, one of the favorites in the AFC to, they went to the championship. They want to get back to a championship. And so far, it's been very underwhelming, and I can only assume that on most people's list and power rankings, Jacksonville's just been dropping and dropping and dropping. Because that's all well, and then Fournette not being back either. Let's see if it says, do we got any info on Fournette? Fournette downgraded to doubtful on Sunday. I guess let's just go through the injuries because we're here. Calais Campbell, D-end, questionable. This is Jacksonville's, by the way. Niles Paul is out indefinitely. Malik Jackson, DT, questionable. DJ Hayden, questionable. Marquise Lee's on the IR. That's a big. Marquise Lee was a huge hit for Jacksonville too. If you didn't know, he's one of their go-to receivers, and just IR with the knee this year. Don't even happen. James O'Shaughnessy, tight end, who's questionable. TJ Yeldon, probable. Fournette, doubtful. Fournette will be a huge help to this team, too, when he comes back. Trey Herndon, cornerback, questionable. Houston's injuries. Houston, not so banged up. Bruce Ellington, wide receiver, questionable. Brian Peters, linebacker, questionable. Zach Fulton, center, questionable. Kevin Johnson, he's out with concussions forever. So Houston coming in fairly healthy as far as we can see on this. Houston 1-10 against the spread in the last 11. Ugh. Houston 3-9 straight up in the last 12. The total has gone under in 6 of Houston's last 8. Houston is 1-5 against the spread in the last 6 games on the road. Houston is 1-9 straight up in the last 10 games on the road. Total has gone under in 4 of Houston's last 6 on the road. Houston is 6-2 straight up in the last 8 when playing Jacksonville. Total has gone over in 5 of Houston's last 7 when playing Jacksonville. And Houston is 5-2 against the spread in its last 7 when playing on the road against Jacksonville. Houston is 5-2 straight up in the last 7 on the road against Jacks. The total has gone over in 4 of Houston's last 5 games when playing on the road against Jacksonville. And then, we have the similar flip stats on the other side. Total has gone over in 4 of Jacksonville's last 6 at home. Total has gone over in 5 of Jacksonville's last 7 when playing Houston. So Jacksonville puts up points against Houston. Back to this game, though. I feel like The feeling I had last week was that Jacksonville was going to be able to handle Dallas, I thought they were going to handle them easily. Where I thought that nasty Jacksonville D, all they got to do is stack the box against Zeke, and then what are you going to do? The minute Dak started running, all hell broke loose. It was like they had never seen a quarterback scramble or design quarterback runs before, and they weren't ready for it. They weren't ready to go, and Dallas rolled them. And I think that game might have been a wake-up call. It could, this is where I'm at with it. On a good team, on a good structured organization, that last team's a wake-up call. That's what you use for motivation for the next week. But on a bad team that's, already doesn't have structure, those losses like that just drag you down further. And that's unfortunate for Jacksonville because I think that's where they're at. I think that every loss is dragging them down a little further and a little further. But this is their get back on track game. They're at home. Houston's coming into their home, and they're going to have to get something going on. But I just, after seeing him against Dallas's defense, and Dallas has a very good defense, they couldn't do anything. And Houston's defense isn't terrible. I mean, there's things to be desired from Houston's defense, but they can get a pass rush going on. They got Clowney. They got J.J. Watt. They got a bunch of guys to make, Bortles have a long day, question some things. But are they going to beat them by a touchdown? Are Jacksonville going to beat Houston by a touchdown? Or can Jacksonville even beat the Texans? Are they that broken now? That's the question I'm asking, because after that Dallas game seemed like they were broken. So now my faith is shook. The Jaguars got me shook. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with you. Can you beat Houston by a touchdown at home? I don't know. I thought you were going to shut Dallas down. They scored 40 points. But on the opposite side of that, Bortles isn't going to run like Dax did. Maybe he will. Bortles does run. Maybe he will. Maybe they'll use the Dallas plan to put it on Jacksonville. I'm sure they're staring at that tape real hard and finding out every little thing Dallas did, and they're going to use as many of those things against Jacksonville as they can. Bill O'Brien, too. Bill O'Brien's an offensive-minded coach, and he's going to take everything that he saw in that game to heart and implement as much of the successful things that he saw as he can, I'm sure. Which makes this kind of very interesting. Very interesting pick. And will it go over as well as what else is interesting? Because this game's called out to be 21-21 is what they got it at right now. Which I don't know that that's the way this game's going. I see this more like 28-13, something like that. Which is, what's 28-13? 28, that's 41. So we'd be barely under. It's 30-13, it's over. So it does have it looks like an under game. It smells like an under game. The -5 Jacksonville is really what's bugging me because I don't know if they beat Houston by a touchdown. I don't think they do. I think at minimum, Deshaun Watson can just huck it over and over to Hopkins, and they can get some scores if that's the entirety of their game plan. And I don't know, because if you look, when we look at these teams straight up next to each other, points Houston, passing yards Houston, rushing yards Houston, time on the field Houston, number of plays Houston. Average yards per play, same. And then all of it. This is why this game's intriguing a little bit too, because all of the stats point to Houston. All of the trends. Well, let's look at these trends here. Jacksonville's 5-2 against the spread and last 7 at home, so they cover at home. in the last 7 at least. Jacksonville's 8-1 straight up in the last 9 at home. Total has gone over in 4 of Jacksonville's last 6 games at home. Over in 4 of the last 6 at home. Jacksonville's 2-6 straight up in the last 8 games when playing Houston. Total has gone over in 5 of Jacksonville's last 7 when playing Houston. 5 of the 7 has gone over when playing Houston. Jacksonville is 2-5 against the spread in its last 7 games when playing at home against Houston. So Houston covers in Jacksonville, and that's kind of where my thinking's been leaning toward here, looking at this. Jacksonville's 2-5 against the spread in the last 7 when playing at home against Houston. Jacksonville's 2-5 straight up in the last 7 when playing at home against Houston. Houston beats them at home. They beat them. 2 out of the last 5 games straight up, Jacksonville lost to Houston at home. And the total's gone over in 4 of Jacksonville's last 5 games when playing at home against Houston. 42 kind of looks low after reading those. And that -5 Jacksonville kind of looks like a little too much. Houston's trends starts with a bad one. 1-10 against the spread in the last 11. Which to me, the fact that Houston's not a garbage team, 1-10 against the spread kind of makes it. That to me is means they're due. Are they due against the spread? Which I kind of think they are after looking at some of this. Okay, so let's pick this one. We're going. What's the money line here? It's -230 Jacksonville, +190 Texas. And I think I'm going to go with Texas on this one. I mean, I haven't seen anything to give me good feelings about Jacksonville at all. I haven't seen anything to give me hope or optimism with the Jacksonville team, so I'm staying away for it for now. And we'll go 50 on Houston straight up, and that gives us +190, which I like. I like the +190. That's big. Against the spread, we have Jacksonville -5, but I'm going to take Houston +5 for 50. Houston +5, I like, even though they're on the road, and traveling from Houston to Florida, I don't feel like it's as big of an environment and culture shock. You know, Houston's got coast, they got warm weather, it's hot there, and our over/under 42. So currently, 59% of the money's on Houston, and 55% of the money's on the under. I think this one goes over. I think whatever happens, whatever side scores points, the other side is going to be capable of catching up, and I think there's going to be some points scored in this game. Even though we have two really good defenses, we're going to see what it is. So we're saying over 42. We're taking all right. So just to recap here: Houston versus Jacksonville. Jacksonville at home, favorited. We're going to take 50 on Houston, straight up, +190. You know what? I want to change that. I'm going to change that 100 on Houston, straight up, +190. 50 on Houston to cover, +5, and 50 on the over, +42. And that should be an interesting one to watch. So only 2 more games, Minnesota and the Jets, and New England and Chicago, and then we're going to call it a day here and finish up the rest of the games tomorrow. Just because it takes so long to go through all these, and I want to have a little bit of time between each one to kind of talk and explore through all these. Okay, so to Minnesota and the Jets. Benny and the Jets. Right away, Minnesota 3-2-1, and the Jets 3-3. So we have the Jets at home dog, +3.5 at home. over under 46. And our Bovada money line is minus 200 Minnesota, plus 170 the Jets. I was really big on Minnesota going into the season, and much like Jacksonville, they've slowly been waning a little bit more. But I feel like they are actually turning it around, and I think it's going to pick up more and more with Minnesota as Cousins gets more settled. And looking at them straight up, the Jets score more points. The Jets score more points, almost 5 more points than Minnesota on average. Minnesota passes the ball more. The Jets run the ball more. Minnesota has better clock management. They run more plays. They run and they about have the same yards per play, about almost 6. In the last 10 games, Minnesota hasn't been very good against the Jets, straight up. Minnesota is 1-2-2 against the spread in the last 5, 15-4-1 straight up in the last 20. Minnesota is 2-3-1 against the spread in the last 6 on the road, 2-3-1 straight up in the last 6 on the road. Total's gone over in 7 of the last 10 on the road. Minnesota is 2-4 against the spread in the last 6 when playing the New York Jets. 1-6 straight up in the last 7 when playing the Jets, and the total has gone over in the last 6 games when playing the Jets. The Jets are 5-12 straight up in the last 17. Over and 4 the last 6. Jets are 9-3 against the spread in the last 12 at home. Gone over in 6 of the last 8 games at home. And the Jets are 4-2 against the spread in the last 6 games when playing Minnesota. 6-1 straight up in the last 7 games playing Minnesota. So what's the deal here with the Jets in Minnesota? How do the Jets have Minnesota's number? If they're beating them 6-1 straight up in the last 7, that's an interesting trend. That's an interesting stat. Injuries, Minnesota. Linval Joseph is questionable. Andrew Sendejo, the safety, questionable. Riley Rife, tackle, questionable. Dalvin Cook, questionable. Dalvin Cook's going to be missed. Minnesota needs running backs. Deshaun Bauer, DN, questionable. Pretty much it for the Minnesota side. Jets look about same banged up. Jets look banged up. They got a lot of questionables here. Buster Skrine, cornerback, questionable. Tremaine Johnson, cornerback, questionable. Isaiah Crowell is probable. Kevin Pierre-Louis, linebacker, questionable. Quincy Enunwa is out 2 to 3 weeks, wide receiver. Leonard Williams, D-end, questionable. Sharon Peak, wide receiver, questionable. Robbie Anderson, wide receiver, questionable. A lot of hamstring issues here. So we see a lot of offense. Secondary and receivers on Minnesota are banged up quite a bit. It's going to be 47 degrees in New York. It's going to be chilly night in New Jersey. Shouldn't affect the Minnesota guys at all. They're definitely used to the cold weather out there in Minnie. And this is a tough one because I feel like the Jets are just starting to get some momentum together, get it going. Darnold had a really good week last week, and they beat the Vikings at home. They beat them all the time. Are they going to beat them by more than a field goal? I don't know. I don't know that that's going to be the case on this one. And we have 62% of the money on Minnesota thinking the same thing. No one thinks. Only 38% of the people think that the Jets are going to win by more than a field goal, and 66% of the money's on the over, which is at 46. 46 seems a little bit high. considering how good Minnesota's defense is. And the Jets' defense isn't really bad either. I wouldn't call them bad defense. So that does seem... So that's one thing that pops out to me right away is that, you know, are the Vikings and the Jets going to put up more than 46? And I'm also, keep in mind, I'm also trying to play... This is a little risky on my part. I'm trying to play the change in Vegas because I know that they're going to be changing these over and unders to try and suit the new league, and I think that the numbers are coming out a little funny sometimes because of it. And I'm gonna try and take advantage, but I could be wrong on a lot of these. How it goes, just using our calculation to make the best guesses possible. So 46 seems a little high at a glance on this one. And then also that the Jets are going to win by more than a field goal, I'm not necessarily sold on. You know, I'm thinking maybe Minnesota wins this one straight up. And maybe I could see them winning by a field goal. I could see it not being this whole drastic thing where one team's going to really stomp the other. But I definitely feel like Minnesota is going to be 3-3, or 4-2 and not 3-3, and the Jets are going to be 3-4. This is the way I imagine it to shake out. I can't really see. I mean, maybe they do though. I mean, Thielen's healthy. The Jets can. The thing is, the Jets can run the ball. The Jets can run the ball, and at home, if Minnesota can't score quickly, they're going to be passing all day, and they're really not already running the ball that much. They're a passing-oriented team, and so maybe that just suits them that we're going to come out and throw and throw and throw. Can we look at? Bring up some stats. I just want to see. I want to see right where exactly the New York Jets' passing defense is. So let's look at defense here. Okay, the New York Jets' passing D is right in the middle there, so it's not going to make too much difference one way or another. Looking at this game, though, okay, let's pick it. So I like Minnesota minus 200 for 50. I like Minnesota against the spread minus 3.5 for 50. And I like the under 46 for 50. And it's going to be interesting to see how this one pops out. But I think Minnesota's just going to be too much for this New York Jets team, which is still growing, still trying to find their identity, and Minnesota's already ready to go. And the more that Cousins gets settled, it's just going to be better and better for him. And I think Minnesota wins this game by a touchdown. I do. And then our last game of the day is New England-Chicago. So New England-Chicago is interesting because the Bears are coming home, and they're 3-2. The Patriots are 4-2. The Bears really want to win. They want the Patriots to be 4-3, and the Bears to be they want to be 4-2 and still rolling. And the Bears are home dog, which is interesting. We got 61% of the money on New England and 63% of the money on the over. Everyone's taking New England and the over to roll in Chicago. I don't know if that's exactly it. That's exactly what's going to go down here. Trends are Chicago is 5-2 against the spread in its last 7, 8-17 straight up in its last 25. They're 11-3-1 against the spread in its last 15 games at home, 8-15 straight up in the last 23 at home. The total has gone under in 7 of Chicago's last 10 at home. Chicago was 1-7 straight up in the last 8 when playing New England. Chicago doesn't beat New England. The The total has gone over in 4 of Chicago's last 5 games when playing New England. So it goes over and they lose. New England 13-6 against the spread in the last 19. 17-4 straight up in his last 21. New England is 14-5 against the spread in the last 19 games on the road. 16-3 straight up in the last 19 on the road. The total has gone under in 5 of New England's last 6 games on the road. New England is 7-1 straight up in the last 8 when playing Chicago. Total's gone over in 4 of New England's last 5 games when playing Chicago. Looking at the teams straight up, New England scores more points. They pass the ball more. Chicago runs the ball better, controls the clock better. New England runs more plays, and they both average about the same amount per pass or run. This is interesting. New England's ready to go. New England's ready to win. They figured out whatever problems that they have, and they're the team to beat in the AFC. But they are going into Chicago, and Chicago's coming off that terrible loss of Miami. We got some action going on here in downtown Los Angeles. Maybe let's talk about the injuries when we got this siren. Chicago's got Prince Akamura questionable, Marcus Cooper Sr. questionable cornerback, Khalil Mack probable. I bet you Khalil makes the field though. Edelman probable, Marcus Cannon questionable, and Geno Grissom defensive end questionable for the Patriots. Both teams pretty healthy coming into this. A couple questions. Edelman and Max just dinged up a bit, and they might not be 100%, but they'll still be factors, both of them. Chicago plus 130 on this. New England minus 150 on the road. I don't know if I can put money on New England on the road in Chicago. Chicago's not a bad team. They're a deep playoff team in the NFC. Maybe. I mean, they just lost this horrific game to Miami last week, so I assume that they felt like they shouldn't have lost that game, and that they're using this energy to rally to get ready for this game. But New England's going to be a force. At the same time, though, if New England thinks that they're going to run Sonny Michel against the Bears the entire time and get 200 yards rushing, you got another thing coming. You're not going to get it done. And that's just the truth. They're not going to be able to run Sonny Michel against the Bears like they did. And that was the bulk of how New England kept things going on in Kansas City. And I don't think New England's the same championship team that they have been either. I think they can still definitely win how they've been winning, but I like the Bears for this one. So something's pulling me towards Chicago for this one, where I like Chicago plus 130 at home for 50. I like Chicago plus 3 at home to cover for 50. And I like the under 49 for 50. I don't think this is going to be a 50-point football game. Or maybe that could be a bad thought that I just had right there. Because let's look back. Let's think about last week. Miami put up 30 on them. New England is a much better offense than Miami's offense. And they definitely needed breakout performances on Miami's part to make those points. But something tells me it's going to be a war in Chicago. Something tells me that the Bears are going to be stingy this week. So I'm going to take 50 on the under. We're going to say going beneath 49. So that all said and done, well, let's recap that real quick. New England versus Chicago. Chicago at home. Like Chicago straight up for 130, $50. $50 on Chicago to cover, and 50 on the under. And so the anomaly that sticks out, looking at how I picked everything today, is we got 6 unders and only 3 overs, which goes against the trend in the NFL right now. But my thought is that Vegas is catching hip to these new high scores, and they're going to be changing these numbers. And that's the play I'm trying to take advantage of this week. I don't know if we'll be right there on it, but I'm hoping we're right in step with Vegas as they're changing things. So picking more unders in these early games because I think they're setting the lines a little bit better now. That said, this is all the early games. This is every game up to 1 o'clock, and then tomorrow we'll go through all the late games and Sunday and Monday and all that stuff. And probably talk about the Arizona-Denver game that's going to happen tonight. Should be a really good, fun game to watch. Make sure you give it a look. If you made it all the way to the end here, thank you so much for hanging out and listening. I really appreciate it. I hope I gave you some good info or insights and maybe helps you make some decisions, yay or nay, on which way you wanted to bet on one thing or another. I'm going to try and keep these coming as much as I can and keep a lookout for the one tomorrow. And thank you so much for hanging out today.